people really, when I say people in general don't understand the intensity of what we're talking about. It's an incredible magnetic pull in a direction. Is it the individual's fault? Yes and no. Mm-hmm. Because like if you are traumatized and your history of traumatization begins before you can make decisions or you have the authority to manage your own life as a child or an adolescent, then you could say the addiction or the compulsion, the obsessional thinking in order to manage those symptoms is a normal outcome.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost expected.
Yeah.
I mean, from the psychological perspective, it is expected.
Developmental.
The developmental. So it's, you can talk to any psychologist and you put this child through this set of stimuli, then 95% of the time they're going to come out with this trauma and this.
But again, remember, going back to where we started, depending on the characteristics of that individual child.
Very true, exactly.
That's why 10 different human beings
going through
the exact same, let's say they all start at 4 years old and they're all raised exactly the same. They'll all have a different
outcome,
response, and reaction.
And this is this breaks into my personal philosophy, but on the nature versus nurture and how they both play their factors in each individual life is, yes, you put 10 different children through the same situation and you're going to have 10 different results, but you can also expect that, 9 out of those 10 children are going to come out with trauma, varying degrees of trauma.
And how they handle it.
Will be different. And what drugs of choice, maybe if they do become addicts, or alcohol, or what they might use to compensate, or if they right off the bat go and try and fix it. It's going to be different between each of the children, but you can assume that most of those children will experience that trauma. And that just kind of, I feel like that's a good way to kind of just sum up and wrap up a little bit of what we're talking about here. So I feel like that's a good kind of ground to wrap some of this up with. It just kind of shows you trauma comes in many different forms. Trauma affects different people in very different ways. Very difficult to, if not impossible to, it is impossible to tell anybody what they've experienced through their trauma in their situation. That is on them. We can say that they have gone through trauma. We can help somebody get through that trauma. And that, again, will look different through different people. So kind of in conclusion, unfortunately here, guys, but I think we are coming to the end of this. I feel like it's important to get the question out there. Just what kind of advice would you give to people who have gone through trauma? How would you go about treating trauma? Now, it's a difficult question because I feel like you would treat different people in different ways, but as a more generalized advice?
Well, the answer to that is it's inside out, because instead of people trying to figure out if they have trauma, I would tell you, if you are a person experiencing anxiety, panic attacks, inability to sleep, insomnia, random thinking, just a sense of worry, anxiety, panic, difficulty sleeping, good chance there's some trauma or trauma-like experiences, vicarious experiences, personal experiences, whatever. People, even being around people that are this way can, but I would go about it that way rather than, hey, everybody, let's take a look through your life to see if you've been traumatized. I'd say do it different. Do it by symptom. And if the symptom is that you have trouble sleeping or your sleep is not very good, that's a really good place to look.
Okay.
Or you have worry, you have anxiety-like symptoms, difficulty eating, or if you eat too much, overeating is related not only to high levels of anxiety, but to trauma. It's been proven that people that have significant eating disorders have been traumatized, And so, the first answer to your question is anxiety, worry, panic attacks, difficulty sleeping, whatnot, might indicate that there's some stuff going on in your life that you're not aware of.
Okay.
Because your brain has been excellent at keeping
blocking
you
it
from
away.
knowing it, which is your brain's job
Yeah.
at your own expense. But your brain is just worried. Your brain is only interested in you staying alive and having sex and making more babies. That's my fundamental philosophy of life. Is our brain just wants us to screw, make some babies, and get out of the way. In the meantime, it's up to us to do that in a way that feels better. And so with that in mind, go to a professional and like a journey letter is a way that we've talked about, the biography or any different number of things. And then you can begin, when you begin to develop a willingness to become conscious of those things, I absolutely guarantee you that those symptoms will become less significant. And it will absolutely go a long way toward helping you with whatever addictive tendencies, the obsessive compulsive tendencies you have that are not allowing you to have the life that you want to have. Because that's all this is about. How you living the way you want to live, emotionally and cognitively, spiritually or whatever. Are you doing it the way you want to do it? And if this stuff that we're talking about is what interferes with it, understand that you can do something about it.
Yeah.
And it's not that difficult. It just takes the courage to go revisit some things that were horrifically or exceptionally unpleasant.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's all I've got.
No, I like it. I mean, it makes sense to me. Because a quick paraphrase, what I'm hearing is basically if you notice those symptoms that have been laying out within yourself, you see that you have those symptoms, then you want to take an inside out look at the different aspects of your life. If you want to start dealing with the trauma, you need to take a look. If you have those symptoms, then it's a good chance you have trauma. You have now identified a problem, and you'll probably need a good therapist or somebody to talk and work through with to kind of get a full inside out view. But you have to start digging deep, digging in and figuring out kind of where that trauma is. So I have trauma. I don't know where that trauma is. I don't know what my body has considered traumatic in my life. I don't know if, when I was I had solid memory, when I was 4 years old, if something happened to me, or if I was 8 years old and I blocked it out, or I was 11 years old and I didn't realize how traumatic that situation was when it affected me.
Yeah.
And you got to start digging and kind of getting towards that memory at the core of the trauma and of that anxiety and pain, and figure out. And it could be long-term, as we've talked about it could be vicarious, it could be a sudden event, but it's about going back and looking at everything and trying to find it and figure out what it is. And that's how you're going to help overcome trauma. And I think that's very important, and it's a great lesson here for anybody watching. I feel like most people, if not all of us, have gone through some style and type of trauma. So
we've all, yeah. Not like it was 150 years ago, man. It was a daily event 150 years ago, and they didn't have the goddamn chemicals to help them with.
Exactly.
They had a lot of booze. They had a lot of. That's what the saloons came from.
Yeah.
Was your therapist was. But really, 150 years ago, 100 years ago, traumas were much more prevalent than they are now. I mean, if there's something to be said, things have gotten much better in terms of horrific things happening to people. There was a time when if you had 5 kids, 2 of them were dead before they hit 5 years old. So I guess we should probably give it the old sign off here.
Yeah. All right, you guys. Well, thank you for coming in, tuning in, listening here today. I am Ethan Sommer, sitting here with Neil Sommer.
Yeah.
Another great episode. Trauma was the theme for the day.
Trauma and addiction.
Yeah.
Very important to make sure the two of those are
connected,
conceptualized.
Yeah, and they tend to be very hand in hand for the most part. So anyways, feel free, please check out our website, scottsommersobriety.com, scottsommer.com, sobriety, sobriety. I didn't realize it was going to be a spelling bee. I'm sorry, you guys. .com.
Yeah.
We have YouTube. Come check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Facebook, and give us a like. Let us know what you think. If you hate it, let us know, man. And we'll delete your comment.
I like that. That's good.
Thank you guys again. Here, Ethan Sommer with Scott Summer Sobriety, the Next Gen Sobriety Podcast.